AI agents are everywhere, automating tasks and making decisions at machine speed. But agents make mistakes. Just one rogue agent can do big damage before you even notice. Rubrik Agent Cloud is the only platform that helps you monitor agents, set guardrails, and rewind mistakes, so you can unleash agents, not risk. Accelerate your AI transformation at Rubrik.com. That's RUBRIK.com.
Residents at Brightview Senior Living Communities enjoy enhanced possibilities, independence, and choice. Brightview Dulles Corner and Great Falls offer vibrant senior independent living, assisted living, and memory care services through various daily programs, chef-prepared meals, safety and security, transportation, resort-style amenities, and high-quality care. Take financial possession of your apartment by December 31st, 2025 and save. Discover more at brightviewseniorliving.com. Equal housing opportunity.
Hello and welcome to 31 Days of Terror 2025, and we are on day number 23, and I have 3 spooky stories for you today, and our first story today comes from Clare. I'm from Massachusetts, but we have a vacation house up in Vermont. It's a ski resort that is also a summer vacation spot, with pools, games, etc. This vacation house has been in my family for a while, with my grandmother, rest in peace, staying up here with her parents. She then brought my dad and his brother up here along with her husband. Now to the spooky bits. As you enter the house, you have to go down a staircase. The first door on your left is the bedroom. There is a king bed in a little alcove and 2 twin beds on the opposite wall with the feet facing each other. There also used to be bunk beds in this bedroom, but the resort opted to get twins instead. Now, at the head of the king bed, there is a mirror that runs the length of the headboard. Useful for getting dressed, but terrifying in the middle of the night when you have to go to the bathroom. Now, my dad used to sleep in one of the twin beds, and he swore every night he faced the wall and fell asleep, he would have terrible nightmares. Me and my siblings experienced the same thing. I have also had many instances of sleep paralysis in this house. I sleep in the king bed with my sister, and occasionally, once a week up here, almost never back at home, I have sleep paralysis. This has happened for as long as I can remember. The scariest one by far happened when I was around 12. I was sleeping soundly and my sister rolled around in bed. She ended up rolling so much that it woke me up. I opened my eyes and thought, I'm thirsty, so I went to get some water. I don't even know if this is paralysis at this point because I distinctly remember getting up, getting a drink, and kayaking back down. The second I got comfortable, I got this feeling that I was locked in place. It was at that moment that I looked in the back left corner of the room. Nothing was there. Then I looked up. On my ceiling, I kid you not, there was a person crawling on my ceiling. My soul almost left my body then and there. I looked to see if my sister was awake, trying to strain my eyes to the right. I couldn't see her, so I looked back at the figure. It was closer. I still couldn't move, so I started praying. Then, all of a sudden, the figure crawled inhumanly fast on the ceiling at me and dropped onto my bed. I felt the thing land on my feet. It was totally black. No facial features or anything. It crawled towards me and reached out a hand. Its fingers were impossibly long and it touched my head. It felt as if it was pulling at me, like my essence, if that makes sense. I didn't know what to do, so I shut my eyes and prayed God would save me. I called to my grandma and grandpa and asked them to help, all while the pulling sensation got worse. Then it just stopped, like that. I opened my eyes and it was gone, and I could move again. I pulled the blanket over my head and wrapped myself around my sister. I don't know how the heck I fell asleep, but I did. That was one of the scariest things that happened to me. I have more stories, like one about a ghost girl following me and my friends, and my experience with something in a lake. Well, Claire, send in those stories. I especially want to know about your experience with something in a lake, because anything creature featurey really tickles me. I absolutely love a creature feature story. I'm pretty sure I've spoken about this documentary before on this iteration of 31 Days of Terror. But if you are somebody who still suffers from sleep paralysis, or even if you're somebody who doesn't, there is a documentary, and I know it was available on YouTube. It's called The Nightmare, and it is a study into the psychological reasonings for sleep paralysis, but it doesn't just focus on psychological stuff, and it is absolutely fascinating and honestly terrifying. And as I've said 1,000 times before, I'm not somebody who suffers from sleep paralysis. I do have parasomnia in that I sleepwalk and I sleep talk and all of those things, but I don't suffer from sleep paralysis. But that documentary made me want to never fall asleep again, because it is so petrifying. And I find it really interesting when we talk about stories about sleep paralysis where people have sleep paralysis but only in one place. So they may not have it at home ever, and then they go to a certain place every year or a relative's house, and suddenly they're getting sleep paralysis. And they're only getting it in that house, or they only get it in a particular bedroom. Like, why is that? Also, the shock of seeing something on the ceiling must have been horrendous, and for it to crawl towards you, you physically feel it landing on the bed, and then it reaches out and touches you. I just think it's, sleep paralysis really scares me. Even I'm calling it sleep paralysis. We don't know if that's what it was, right? But I just think, yes, there are very obviously psychological reasons as to why people have sleep paralysis. But it also makes me go, I don't know, there's something about the patterns that exist within sleep paralysis among different people who have never met that really give me the heebie-jeebies. Today's episode is brought to you by Uncommon Goods. The holidays are fast approaching, and if there's one thing I love, it is buying gifts for people. Uncommon Goods makes holiday shopping stress-free and joyful, with thousands of one-of-a-kind gifts that you just can't find anywhere else. One of the things I saw on Uncommon Goods that I absolutely adored was the personalised runner's medal display and PR board. And if you've got a runner in your life, this is a gift that they will absolutely adore, because not only can they show off all of their medals, there is also a completely customizable board where they can write inspirational quotes. They can write what their next race is going to be and all of their own personal records. Uncommon Goods has something for everyone, from book lovers to history buffs to diehard football fans to foodies, mixologists, avid gardeners, you name it, you'll find thousands of gift ideas. And not only that, with every purchase you make at Uncommon Goods, they give back $1 to a non-profit partner of your choice. And so far, they have donated more than $3 million. So shop early, have fun, cross some names off your list today. To get 15% off your next gift, go to uncommongoods.com/ghoststories. That's uncommongoods.com/ghoststories for 15% off. Don't miss out on this limited time offer. Uncommon Goods, we're all out of the ordinary.
Residents at Brightview Senior Living Communities enjoy enhanced possibilities, independence, and choice. Brightview Dulles Corner and Great Falls offer vibrant senior independent living, assisted living, and memory care services through various daily programs, chef-prepared meals, safety and security, transportation, resort-style amenities, and high-quality care. Take financial possession of your apartment by December 31st, 2025 and save. Discover more at brightviewseniorliving.com. Equal housing opportunity.
AI agents are everywhere, automating tasks and making decisions at machine speed. But agents make mistakes. Just one rogue agent can do big damage before you even notice. Rubrik Agent Cloud is the only platform that helps you monitor agents, set guardrails, and rewind mistakes, so you can unleash agents, not risk. Accelerate your AI transformation at Rubrik.com. That's RUBRIK.com.
If you're a smoker or vapor ready to make a change, you really only need one good reason. But with Zyn nicotine pouches, you'll discover many good reasons. Zyn is America's #1 nicotine pouch brand. Plus, Zyn offers a robust rewards program. There are lots of options when it comes to nicotine satisfaction, but there's only one Zyn. Check out zyn.com/find to find Zyn at a store near you. Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical.
You hired a new employee. Time to get to work, right? Not quite. First comes HR software for payroll and benefits. Then IT tools to manage devices and app access. And finance software for expenses. Oh, and none of these softwares work together. That's sad. Software as a disservice. Rippling lets you run HR, IT, and finance on one unified platform with automations that save time and connect your workflows. For a limited time, you can get 6 months of Rippling free when you sign up at rippling.com/podcast. That's RIPPLING.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
And story number 2 today comes from David. I'd previously written in about an encounter I had with a full-bodied apparition at the hospital where I work. Well, this one isn't quite so spectacular, but it did startle me. For context, I worked the night shift for over 4 years in the same place, and I've been in this hallway at the same time repeatedly, and I have never had this happen before. I left the locker room and started walking down the long, narrow hallway to the main part of the lab so I could hand off to the next shift. I was listening to Ghost Hunters in one ear, but I feel like that was just a funny coincidence. As I was walking down the hallway at 11 p.m, the lights above me audibly clicked off as if someone had flipped the switch on me. It startled me a bit, so I looked up and down the hallway for the joker who did that to me, only to find that I was completely alone. Now, even more alarmed, I picked up the pace. I've seen too many horror movies to not move when shit starts happening. I asked the clerks at the front desk if they had ever seen that happen before, and they both said no. So I just shook it off and left soon after. When I got home, roughly an hour later, I went to put some groceries in the fridge and checked the backyard before I let my dog out. When I was startled for a second time tonight by a loud bang on the other side of the sliding glass door. I saw nothing but flipped on the patio light and shone my flashlight around, again seeing nothing. With a noise that loud, there should have been something out there. David, you have the right idea. When shit starts happening, you just get out of there. We've all seen the horror films. We've all seen the person in the horror films that goes, "No, you're all being ridiculous. Don't be silly. It's not a ghost. It's just, it's just an old building. Buildings creak." And then they get dragged down into the basement by some sort of horrific entity. And I feel like I always say this and it always sounds really flippant when I say it, but I don't mean it flippantly. But it does sound like something was trying to get your attention. Flicking the lights off, and that's a very, clearly obvious thing. You are not going to not notice that walking down the corridor when the light flicks off. And then banging on the door, again, you are not going to dismiss that. And maybe there's something there that is trying to let you know that it's around and trying to get your attention. But I mean, like I always say, find another way. Find anything else. Write a nice letter. Send an email. Although I did do that episode where that guy was sending emails from beyond the grave. So that's maybe not that, because I think that would actually be quite disturbing. I don't really know. Maybe leave money around the place, like nice big 50s or something around the place. That's a nice way to get somebody's attention. And our third story today comes from Bailey. I've been debating for a few months to send in this story, as well as plenty of others, but I figured now was the time, as I finally think I know what I had pissed off. In 2023, I temporarily moved into my grandmother's with my, at the time, 3-year-old son. I've always had extremely weird dreams, and about 2 weeks prior had my first lucid dream. I had decided one day to collect some branches off the willow that sat by the well on their farm. We think the tree is well over 60 years old, as my grandparents bought the farm over 50 years ago, and they say that it was a fairly large tree even then. This tree had always seemed alive to me in such a strange way. Like there was so much more to this tree on days when there was no wind, the branches would sway in such abnormal ways. I don't think anyone really ever noticed it though. And when my mother had to put her dog down, they did so under this willow. No wind at all until he had laid down and the vet had arrived. All of the branches were swaying towards him like it knew it was his time. And honestly, it was one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. I'd collected some branches and made a ring out of them to hang above my bed to try and go deeper into my dreams and do more dream work. About 4 days later, I could feel something in the corner of the room watching me. A short black shadow, almost a female energy. And I don't mean I had a bad feeling, I mean it was absolute dread that I felt every single night. This went on for 2 weeks, and then the dreams started. I began having the most horrific dreams I've ever had. The first one, I was laying in bed with my son in a dungeon-like room. In the corner of this room, I could feel it watching me. Slowly, my son started to disappear, yet I could feel him next to me. I woke up in a panic, and in the middle of his sleep, he sat up and pointed in the corner and said, "My phone!" and was extremely upset, borderline crying, all while asleep. No, my 3-year-old doesn't get a phone. It was an old flip phone that he liked to play with. I know this dream doesn't sound terrible, but knowing my child was being messed with put me on edge and really scared me. At this point, I had had about 5 nightmares that really shook me, and it was almost confirmation that it wasn't just in my head, as he ended up doing this about 3 more times. The next was sleep paralysis. I was laying in bed hearing this low whistle with a pattern to it. I was staring at the corner and the door was open and the hallway light was on. I don't sleep with the door open or the hallway light on. The room kept zeroing in on the corner. I always felt it from. The next thing I know, I was walking down the hallway stairs and I heard 4 sets of voices. 2 were of my grandfather and 2 were of my grandmother. I rounded the corner at the bottom of the stairs and saw my normal-looking grandparents and then a second set of grandparents. The second set had red bulging eyes and were acting erratically. When the second set saw me, my second grandfather turned to me, pointed and said, "I'll be back for you." The worst dream I had, I was standing in an old friend's house, looking into a mirror. I had pulled it off the wall and there was about a 2-foot by 2-foot hole at the bottom of it. I had told whoever was in the room with me about it, and I was told to go through it. I did and ended up falling into nothingness for what seemed like forever, and finally ended up in what I thought was the same room, until I looked in the mirror and realised I had fused together with the person in the last room. I now go through the mirror and fall for around 20 seconds, trying to get out of wherever I had gone, only to end up in the same room again, fused to another person. Each time the room slightly changed. I think I went through about 15 different mirrors before I finally woke up. I know these don't sound too crazy, but the common thing in every single one was the exact same energy I felt in the corner. I've always had vivid dreams and nightmares, but nothing compared to the feeling of these dreams. I can't even begin to put into words how they made me feel. The only place in the house I experienced this was in the room that I had the willow hanging up in. I moved out shortly after and wouldn't stay another night in there. My grandmother moved into that room after I left and said she never had any nightmares in that room and has never felt watched. I realised today I think I really pissed off a fairy. I never saw what it looked like. The only thing it would present to me as was a short dark figure with feminine energy. It never got any closer than the corner of the room, never moved spots, never got any bigger or changed shapes. Did I anger a fairy? The willow is still in the room and I'm going to take it apart and put it back by the tree, apologise and leave an offering, as I have always loved that tree. I should have known I needed to put it back around the time the dream started and I started to feel negativity towards the tree. I really don't know how else to explain it. I'm not sure why I didn't take the willow down sooner and put 2 and 2 together. It was like it never really occurred to me that it could possibly be that. Like something was clouding my mind around it. So apparently, the willow tree is where the tradition of touching wood for good luck comes from. I did not know that. Never knew that. Although it is more so touching wood to ward off bad luck rather than for good luck. So I didn't know about any of the folklore surrounding willow trees. But it seems like in folkloric traditions and fairy lore, willows are really strong, powerful trees. They are said to be very much closely linked with witchcraft. There are some people who believe that willow trees house entities like little spirits, fairies, that kind of thing. And they are very closely associated with feminine energy, which is really interesting because obviously, Bailey, I know this was terrifying for you, right? But it is interesting that in folklore, a willow tree is said to be closely linked to strong feminine energy. And maybe in that willow tree, there was some strong female entity that was like, I'm not happy with you taking my branches and you wanted to do some dream work. Well, let me show you dream work. If you want to go down a pretty innocuous rabbit hole, looking up the spiritual significance of various trees is very interesting. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. Thank you to Clare, David and Bailey for sending in your stories. Remember, if you would like to send in your story, you can do so by emailing it to reallifeghoststoriespodcast@gmail.com. You can also check out the website reallifeghoststoriespodcast.com. And if you are desperate for some extra content, you can subscribe to the Patreon. That is patreon.com/Real Life Ghost Stories, where for $5 a month or $2 a month, you can get access to heaps of extra content, as well as every single main and mini episode completely ad-free. And on that note, I shall see you next time.
AI agents are everywhere, automating tasks and making decisions at machine speed. But agents make mistakes. Just one rogue agent can do big damage before you even notice. Rubrik Agent Cloud is the only platform that helps you monitor agents, set guardrails, and rewind mistakes, so you can unleash agents, not risk. Accelerate your AI transformation at Rubrik.com. That's RUBRIK.com.